Good afternoon. Welcome to the Friday, April 17th of 2026 public meeting of the Kingston City Land Bank's Acquisition, Disposition, and Construction Committee. My name is Mike. I will serve as the meeting's moderator. We do ask that any members of the public limit their comments to no more than 2 minutes per speaker. And with that, I turn it over to myself, standing in for the chair of this committee, Aaron Chilwich. First item of business on our brief agenda includes the new home program, specifically the financing portion. So Kyle, would you mind reading us into that?
Sure thing.
Thank you.
Just share my screen.
Great.
Cool. All right, this is the latest summary of where we're at with our requisitions for the new home program. We currently have outstanding requisitions for LBI and for home for a total of $236,000. Those were sent in this week and are in the process of being reviewed. Some of these major items here include the completion of the modular units for Hanratty and Teller by Bill Lake, in addition to some site work. But other than that, not a ton to report. We're just moving along pretty smoothly here. And hopefully we'll run through this in the next couple months. Faster process than usual with the modular setup. Requisitions have been going well so far. Happy to answer any questions anyone might have.
Hearing none. Move on to maybe the construction site, or I'm sorry, Joanna, did you have a question? Or?
No, it's okay.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. The construction portion will fall to me to report out on, as Kyle said, moving smoothly through the financing side of the requisition process. And on the construction side, having funded the balance for the modules at Teller and Hanratty is great. The general contractor who holds the contract with Bill Lake Modular has certified that not only are the building's modules complete, but that any imperfection, any defects against the plans will be paid for by the contractor themselves. So if they show up and they get dinged during construction, during transport, that might be an issue. But if they have a window where a window shouldn't be, that's not our problem. We don't believe that will be the case, but just FYI on that. We are still working through the foundation section. That's always the most sort of decisive portion of modular construction, is getting out of the ground. So foundation work is continuing on both Hanratty and Murray Street. But thankfully, the foundation has been poured almost 30 days ago on Teller. And with that module being complete and paid for, we anticipate some big updates possibly in the next 30 days. With that module could be arriving on site. There'll be plenty of photos. We've talked about this at comms. So it is working well. And the weather so far has been cooperative for us. So more updates to come. Like Kyle said, it will move very quickly. There's no change at this time to our current anticipated completion date of July 22nd for these homes. So that would lead us possibly into, sorry, I didn't ask you before, but the landscaping portion, which is right behind the construction. Would you mind, Rebecca? Do you have anything? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but you're right there with me.
I would just say landscapers are very busy this time of year, so it's a difficult time to get with them. So we have an RFP out and we're hopeful to find some landscapers that can respond to us effectively. So that's where we're at. It'll happen. It's just not going to happen while everyone's mowing the grass. So.
Totally. Well, thank you for that.
I know with landscaping there is a a window in which it needs to be done. Do you anticipate it's going to hit that window?
I think
sorry, Rebecca.
Oh, I was just going to say, I don't think that what we have in mind is very complicated. And Mike seems to think that there's there's not enough space for us to do anything any complicated. Mike seemed to think we would be able to make a timeline And we were in touch with the arborist of the city of Kingston. So as soon as we have a plan, we'll also ask for trees, which is exciting. And I'm sure that they'll come when they come. So, does that make sense, Mike? Did I say all the right things?
Yeah, no, totally. I totally agree.
Yeah.
It'll be fun. We talked at comms, Rebecca, just for your awareness, about possibly being able to promote an opportunity that could include some portion of installation volunteers, which we've done in the past. And so the scope of work for the RFP is for the design of the landscaping, not necessarily the install. So maybe there's a there between committees.
I wonder about that, but hey, let's get a design and
Me
then
too.
we'll see.
Me too. And here comes Aaron.
Sorry, I'm so late.
Oh, you're all good. We welcome, and we were just jumping through the brief agenda that I sent around. We're finishing up the first bullet point on new home landscaping. Would you like to take over the meeting, or would you like me to continue?
No, please continue, Mike. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Next item would be 46 grand request for proposals. I might ask, sorry to put you on the spot, Kyle, but do you mind jumping in with where we're at? We've been working together on this, and I'm really excited about it. I'm sure you are too.
Yeah, we've received a number of not responses yet, but questions and follow-up to our RFPs, primarily from modular providers. And Mike and I have had some initial meetings with them, talking about the scope of that would work for the site. It's been informative, and beyond that, we started meeting with civil engineers on the site too, to help kind of we're starting to understand more the scope of this, what exactly the modular company might be responsible for versus a civil engineer in terms of site design versus an architect in terms of more kind of creative site practices and things like that. So we've met with all three of these types of groups, and we're making progress with all of them. Mike, I'm not sure what else you'd like to add there.
I think at this time you covered it. The RFP is due on the 4th of May for context. So we're in the right levels of dialogue at this point, answering questions and trying to feel our way along to see what type of structure works best. And I think, as you said, we've kind of covered the diversity of modular providers who have in-house design elements, of architects who work with modular providers, and of neither of the above, being the engineering world working on the parking, honestly, and sort of like the infrastructure. So it's exciting. Nothing definitive to report at this time, but there's a lot of interest.
That's great.
That's great.
I'm just curious, like, how many different organizations or, like, people have reached out.
We're talking to 10 or so, Kyle, 10, 12. It's a fair amount.
10 separate inquiries from, wow.
Well, back and forth. I don't want to misquote.
No,
We're drinking out of a fire hose a little bit. In my mind, I always overestimate because I'm so enthusiastic, but it's more than 3 that we've spoken with.
Okay.
And I don't know, Kyle, if you have the numbers for how many people we've talked to.
We talked to about 6 or 7.
6 or 7. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's great.
It's really an interesting opportunity because it is the right time, for us to do it. It's the right time for that type of, scale for these providers for us to move into, and they have a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of good ideas. We met with someone earlier today who had already sketched up 3 different options for the site, like during their meeting. It's beginning of the conversation. But
is the RFP on the website the way most
it is?
Are? Okay, thank you.
It is. Of course, it's at the top of the website. There's a yellow banner that gets you right there.
I'll forward it to the architect that I told you I met with.
Oh, cool.
Just to see whatever.
Totally.
Okay.
More the merrier.
Great.
Okay. The next item and last on the agenda that is circulated is 19A. Happy to go through this quickly or slowly. Aaron,
the
if you
deadline
have-
is approaching, right?
This is the last ADC meeting before the board meeting on the 27th, and our 90-day window to make a decision is the 27th. So this is that discussion. How would you like me to approach it, Aaron? I'm happy to give the soup to nuts or the punchline.
You know, I feel like we've been talking about it for a while. And why don't I try to summarize it?
Please.
You fill it in. So
Sure.
my understanding is basically we've looked at these units. They're in pretty bad shape. One in particular is a kind of hoarder's unit and is in quite bad shape. We don't exactly know kind of what the time horizon will be for redeveloping them. We know that we'll at least have to wait to get title insurance, right? Hopefully, kind of, which will hopefully occur at some point at some point down the line with the Article 11 properties. You guys have kind of done some initial budgeting of what it would take to basically hold and maintain and secure the sites over a couple of years and for 2 years, and it's like 100 and something thousand, which we can obviously we draw an LBI for. I'll just say that what I've said to you, which is that I feel like as the land bank, we have some responsibility to take these sites, even if they're a mess, and even if they were more of a mess than they are.
Totally.
We'll have some time to figure out kind of how to proceed. Yeah, that was the high level. Did I miss anything there?
No, you didn't. You
Okay.
covered it all. If I could add some of the plans that have been discussed around this from a public outreach standpoint, which I think are important because this will be a different timeline for us. So putting out a press release and a newsletter sort of summarizing what this means for us in terms of what we are doing in the near term, what we plan to do, which is to stabilize the properties, clean up the properties, probably some tree work, some clean outs, maybe some roof work, and broom clean, and then that's it. And for a period of time that we don't know the timeline for this currently. Also, I would like to talk to the neighbors next door and say the same thing personally, so they hear it directly and they have an open line of communication, because obviously they probably have the most questions. We did also talk about updating our FAQ on the website, so that's another sort of like, oh, it's on our website, please look here to answer those questions directly. It'll be an ongoing conversation if the decision is made by the board to move forward with acquiring the properties on the 27th. We have 90 days to do so. So we've completed what I would say is the only due diligence available to us, which is the survey work, and the phase 1 work will be completed in advance of any acquisition. The title work is obviously the sticking piece, which we were unable to secure, which is the cause of the agita around this. Just to summarize the city's disposition policy, I know you all know this, but for Article 19A properties, depending on the AMI level that we tell the city that we're anticipating selling them at, there's a tiered system of acquisition price. This is different than it had been previously, where we had, under earlier revision, it was based on the price, the AMI level when we sold the property that we would pay. So we would be paying up front if we sold the homes. If we said that we were selling the homes and we believed we were selling the homes 80% of AMI, we would pay $7,000 per property to the city of Kingston for an acquisition fee, plus an administrative fee, which has recently been updated to about $5,500, I believe. So $12,000 per property-ish would be the cost. The property addresses for future reference are 12 Court Street, 54 Hunter, and why am I blanking on this, 34 Boulevard, because that's the most challenging, and I pushed it out of my mind for a minute. But those are the 3 addresses, and at this time, I would recommend that we move forward. You consider moving forward with the recommendation that I'm making to acquire these properties from the city of Kingston.
And these are properties where we can't have title insurance, right?
We cannot yet obtain title insurance. That's correct. There is precedent in the Newburgh Land Bank for having acquired a 19A property from their municipality. That property had been held by that municipality for approximately 18 months, indicating maybe some level of timeline that we might be able to secure title insurance, but it's not definitive. It depends on the facts, as the attorney said. Fact pattern.
I wondered what is the worst case scenario
I think about that.
without title insurance? Like what these properties, I'm sorry, there's been a lot of change in 19A law, and sometimes it's kind of confusing, but by the time we get them, the city of Kingston has gone through the process of acquiring them to give them to us, right?
The City of Kingston has gone through the code enforcement process called 19A, which is not the tax enforcement taxatory process where you don't pay your taxes. That's Article 11. So the building department, in collaboration with the Office of Housing Initiatives, has brought to a judge a request for a ruling. We haven't seen a ruling that I can quote, but what I believe it says is that the 19A process was conducted properly and the city may now take title. I don't know if the city has taken title to the properties, but they would obviously before they transfer them to us.
So the reason we can't get title insurance, even though they took title, is because why?
So it's because so Article 11 is what you're thinking of, which is the main how we got most of our foreclosed properties. This is this like lesser used version, like kind of foreclosure for abandonment. And essentially the title companies, in my understanding, the title companies are basically don't have like the Article 11 process, legal process has laid out the law, provides them the assurances that they need to issue policies, that they feel comfortable issuing policies. My sense from talking with Mike and a couple others about it is that the title companies, because the law isn't as it hasn't been rewritten for this kind of new world post Supreme Court decision, they have less just feel less comfortable and confident that there wouldn't be claims against the property. So it's very much like individual underwriters kind of weighing the risks against kind of their interpretation of the law. There isn't like a clear reason that like we can't get it. It's just like, you know, Fred at X title company reviewing the materials and saying, you know, this feels maybe a little bit too risky.
Yeah, I mean, I think I remember that meeting. My concern, or I guess what I'm trying to figure out, is what are we liable for if we take these properties on that we have not been liable for before? Do you know what I mean?
So,
Yeah. No, I was gonna say obviously the biggest thing is that we have to hold them for longer, and I think that's a big piece of it. If there were to be a claim against the foreclosure process, like we wouldn't be liable if we didn't do the foreclosure. We wouldn't be liable for like making a payment to the former homeowner. Anything like that would have to be with the city. I suppose the worst case scenario is you get to give the property back, which I don't think would occur. But I guess like you can imagine a scenario in which that might happen. In my mind, the biggest liability is just like the uncertainty of the hold period. If we could like the worst, to go back to like your original question, like if we could never get title insurance, right? If for some reason a title company would not issue us a policy, even with Article 11 properties as a part of like a portfolio, or in 2+ years or in 5 years, whenever it is, we would kind of be left with a certain decision to make, right? Either we would have to kind of sell the property as is and the people who would be willing to respond to that kind of RFP would be like more speculative investor types, because it's, most, you're not gonna be able to get a mortgage on it without title insurance. Or we kind of continue to sit on it until a title company gets comfortable, which, to be fair, like time is one big aspect of them getting comfortable. So the longer we sit on it, the better chance there is that they'll be willing to give us a policy, because the risk goes down for them. Yeah, I don't know, Mike, anything else you'd add? I think that's how I've been thinking about it when I've been.
There's no way we could renovate these properties and have the owner come back and say, "I'd like my property back now. I'll pay my taxes."
That would be the risk if we didn't have title insurance.
If
we were to buy them, renovate them, there's a chance that a ruling by a judge could lay claim to the property, reverting back to the owner who was something that wasn't done correctly in 19A, or there was a precedent set that something was owed to the prior owner that could only be achieved through reversion of the property. That is the risk without title insurance. I think in my mind, another way I've gotten comfortable with it about the worst case scenario, I think by buying these properties, we're avoiding or forestalling at the very least, like Aaron mentioned, the worst case scenario, which is they go to the open market. If we decline them, the city may release an RFP, but can produce an auction. And then someone else would buy them as a speculative investor and maybe not know this nuance around 19A or not care, and either put less money into creating a worse building or put no money into it and flip it again and flip it again. And then it just becomes a property that sits there and gets worse. And at least what we're doing is some active stabilization work to make sure it doesn't get worse. And then we're kind of freezing it in amber for an indeterminate amount of time.
Yeah,
but to build on your question, Rebecca, I do think that like that exact concern is why I wouldn't want us to do more than like the stable, like to invest more than like what we needed to stabilize the buildings in the short term, because like I wouldn't want us to like, you know, rehab the whole building and then suddenly, you know, we've just sunk a bunch of money to rehabbing a house and there's a legal ruling that that's why we need to spend a little money to like make the building so they're not deteriorating, and then you kind of just need to like sit tight and wait and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense to me. I just want to make sure I make sure that I understand that that's our intent.
Yeah.
Because also the stabilizing the buildings is an appropriate use of our funds, it seems to me, given the kind of funding that we have. And so if we take them from the city and we have to give them back, but we stabilize them, we spend our money in a good way, right? We haven't, and that we don't start reconstruction or rehabilitation or whatever we want to call it until we actually have title insurance. So we don't throw $300,000 or $500,000 away. Not that it would be away, but pretty nice, you know, pretty nice boon for someone who didn't do the work. So you know what I mean? So I don't know.
Yeah, we want to be able to do the right thing with it.
Yep.
I'm sorry about the noise. I don't know why we're leaf blowing, but hey, it's okay.
Mike, I was going to ask, do you need a vote from us on this, or?
I think it would be appropriate for ADC to have recommended something to the board that they deliberated and voted on. So yes.
Then I'll just say, I would put forward a motion to recommend that the Kansas City Land Bank accept the offer from the city of Kingston and take title to the 3 Article 19A properties to which we have been offered.
Second.
All in favor? And I think Barbara stepped away from her computer, so we'll call it three A's and one one non-vote.
Perfect. Well, thank you.
Abstention or
one
delayed vote.
Yeah, she might vote when she returns in a moment.
Right.
Anything else, Kyle and Mike, from you guys today?
Not for me.
Good.
Well, I hope you all enjoy the warm weather this weekend. It's like luxurious to walk outside in a t-shirt. It feels great. All right, then.
All right, you guys, I'm gonna jump. I'm sorry, I have to go.
No, go ahead. Thanks, Rebecca.
Thank you all.
Yeah.
Well, bye. We can go.
Okay. Bye.
Do we have to sign out or something?
Probably.